Welcome back. You are tuned in to Trades Nation. My pleasure to have with us here today Gretchen Morgenson. She authored The Capitalist Bible, the essential guide to free markets and why they matter to you. Gretchen, welcome to Traders Nation. How are you today?
Thanks so much for having me, Kurt.
You're more than welcome. As government becomes seemingly more centralized and social policies are grown in certain circles, will capitalism survive?
Boy, that's a really good question. I think so, because I think that when all is said and done, when we emerge from this crisis period that we've been in, everyone will at once recognize that the free markets are the best way to create wealth and to create jobs and to ensure freedom and prosperity. I think that we're going through a very difficult period here because, of course, we do need to have watchdogs that are overseeing the various activities of particularly financial companies. Yeah. And that really was not the case. So what we had was a failure of both the government oversight and a failure of business leaders in some cases to rein themselves in from the risky practices that got them in trouble.
Sure. I mean, it's like our legal system. Capitalism is not a perfect system. And we can improve it, like you said, maybe with some oversight. But is it the best system out there, in your opinion?
Totally. I don't think there's any doubt. I mean, can you name another system where
I can't.
People are free to really find their own way and devise incredible, advancements in whatever business or industry they are in? I mean, we have innovation in this country that's just phenomenal, particularly in the high-tech arena and the Silicon Valley. I mean, it's amazing what it can do when it is, when it is launched and when people are allowed to, follow their stars, essentially.
Yeah, Gretchen, isn't that the key here? Free.
Yes.
Capitalism has that freedom in there versus some other ideologies really don't have that freedom, really oppression. So, but isn't that key here is that freedom to explore, freedom to be innovative, freedom to do these things and to try to succeed and to expand. And the technologies, the world as we know it wouldn't be the world and advanced as we are without capitalism.
Absolutely. If you had the state running Silicon Valley, I mean, who knows? We'd still be back with a transistor, maybe.
Right.
The problem, of course, is with this freedom, you have to also be sure that people are not going to be free to sort of blow ourselves up, which some of these folks did, taking on so much risk on their balance sheet and really levering everything up to the hilt really did cause the system to shudder. Right. And so that kind of thing is really counterproductive and really causes people to question.
Isn't it? Because let's face it, the system, capitalist system, really has a responsibility to keep itself in check. Otherwise, if you run rampant, like any industry, if you run rampant, then you've got the feds, the governments want to come in, they want to regulate everything, and I think regulation is good, but I think too much regulation is not good for capitalism, is not good for free markets. So doesn't capitalism have in its own best interest to regulate itself? Because let's face it, with the crash that we've seen in 2007, 2008, you've got people out there that want to kill capitalism. You've got people out there saying capitalism is dead. And Michael Moore, which is a good example, has a movie coming out that's bashing capitalism. So isn't it in capitalism's best interest self-regulate?
Well, you couldn't have said it better, and I have been saying this all along, and whenever I meet people or whenever I'm speaking about this, it really amazes me that some of these people really just took these risks, and it was, I guess, for a bigger payday, but you can make so much money being honest.
Sure.
And, caring for your customer, your shareholder, your employee. I just don't see why people take these big gambles that really, as you say, lead to the questioning the entire system, which, I think we know is the best there is, and now it's really under fire.
In my opinion, I've always said this, you run a good, clean, honest business, you'll have staying power, which equates to longevity. You'll make more money in the long run by doing that. All right, so let's go to capitalism faults. It's blamed that the Great Depression and, again, 2008, 2007, the downfall has been blamed on capitalism. Is that true?
No, I think it is. We can blame it on people who took advantage of the system, people who took outsized risks, Maybe they were doing so to get a big payoff or a big compensation package. It's unclear. But, no, we have many, many businesses that are being operated in a very forthright and moral manner. And, they're unfortunately, just like the taxpayers, victims here of the bailout that has to come along.
Right.
I would argue that, we really should have questioned this whole notion of too big to fail.
Right.
Because the part of capitalism that we have not addressed at all is this idea that big companies that get into big trouble are suddenly the taxpayers' burden.
Right.
And that really is, I think, a very big question that we have to ask ourselves now after this disaster.
Yeah, capitalism, and people have got to understand this, part of capitalism is if something's going to fail, it needs to fail. That's how you weed out the herd.
Exactly. It's creative destruction or whatever you want to call it.
It's part of the process. They've got to fail. They've got to go. In time, somebody else will come in that's innovative, free thinkers that will replace that out. It's just that simple. Market will take care of itself. I don't have a problem with that. All right, so let's go international here, and a little history, too, by the way. There's people that would love to see capitalism die today. I don't know why we can't learn from our lessons, certain people, not only in our country, but around the world. But Communist China in 1960s moved towards a cultural revolution. I don't know if we're hearing more of revolution here today or not. And they tried to eradicate capitalists from their systems, and only by doing so brought on stagnation and discontent from its people. And now what? Here we have communists, and now they're telling us we need to be careful. They forget about communism anymore in China. They're capitalists.
Well, they are, although they do have a very, very powerful government that, does not want freedom of speech,
right,
that does not allow, freedom of movement.
Right.
So they're taking some aspects of it, but certainly not the freedom aspect that you and I talked about a little bit ago.
There's something hauntingly familiar here. There's a bill going through our government right now that says that under emergency powers, our government can shut down the Internet. Doesn't Communist China have that?
Wow. Well, I am not that familiar with it. I have not even traveled to China, but
right.
It does sound like something that is right up that alley, I'll tell you.
All right. So now let's talk about the liberal establishment. They seem like they're just hell-bent on bashing capitalism. I've said it earlier, mentioned it earlier in Michael Moore's latest film, Capitalism, A Love Story. Is that where are we looking here? Is that just wishful thinking? Capitalism, big system. I don't know if it's going to be replaced out, and if it ever could, what would they be able to replace it with?
Well, I think what you're seeing now, Kurt, is a kind of an attempt by the government to, expand its reach. Certainly, you've seen it in the automotive industry. You've certainly seen it in the financial services industry.
Yeah.
You're starting to see it elsewhere. But the key here is, I think we have to recognize that if regulators want more power, the Federal Reserve is wanting to become the uber regulator, the key regulator here. I don't understand why the very people who failed to spot some of these really dubious practices should be given more power.
Yeah.
I mean, when you typically don't do a very good job, are you rewarded with a pay grade increase or a new job title that's better than the last? Not usually.
It really defies the laws of gravity, if you ask me. I don't understand that whole thing. There's got to be something else going on there. If there was one thing in the capitalist Bible that really stands out, Gretchen, you want people to know about, what would it be?
I just want people to know about the history, how the role it's played in our society in making America the wonderful place that it is.
Right.
And just getting a grasp of the ups and downs. Like you say, nothing is perfect.
Right.
But, this is the best one we've got, best system that we have seen anywhere. And, let's learn about it and make sure that we don't try to replace it with something that's not going to work.
And why test it? I mean, capitalism brought so much prosperity, not only to the United States, but around the world. I don't know why anybody would want to try to replace it. I think it falls back to ideology. Where can we get a copy of the Capitalist Bible today?
Well, I think you could go online. It's published by HarperCollins.
Yeah.
You can go onto their website, or you can go to Barnes & Noble or Amazon. It's available in bookstores today.
Very, very nice. Get a copy today, the Capitalist Bible. Very important, updated, and written by Gretchen Morgenson here with us today. Pulitzer Prize winning, too, Gretchen. Very nice for you. Very nice.
Thanks, Kurt.
You're more than welcome. All right, Capitalist Bible, get a copy today. We'll be right back.